Are we okay?
Yes, sir.
Discussion item number 1, discussion of draft city ordinance prohibiting public consumption and commercial sale of recreational marijuana.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
And this is coming from the legal department. And so in your council packet on item number 6-1, which is scheduled for possible discussion, possible action at the anyways, it's scheduled for discussion and possible action to tonight's meeting, that council could adopt this ordinance. But before just presenting it to you out of the blue, I thought it would at least you'd need a opportunity to hear a presentation and give me feedback and address any concerns you may have. So it's this ordinance that regulates the marijuana establishments. So let me back up. This is Proposition 207. This is the official printout from it. So there's quite a bit of new state law that's being added to Title 36. Governor Ducey signed the proclamation yesterday, so it's now in legal force and effect. And this law, under new statute number 36-2857A, recognizes that a locality, and a locality is a city, town, or a county, may prohibit marijuana establishments or marijuana testing facilities, or both. So the point of this proposition was essentially to decriminalize very small amounts of marijuana possession of 1 ounce or less, including transferring without remuneration 1 ounce or less among people. But it does say if you don't want a marijuana establishment in your city or town, you can go ahead and prohibit them. So under the medical marijuana laws, Nogales is its own what's called HAA. And so if somebody wanted to open a medical marijuana establishment, they would have a right to have one establishment within the city of Nogales. They would have to go through the ADHS licensing process. But no entity has done that for the many years that medical marijuana has been on the books now. So we don't have a medical marijuana establishment, but in that situation, a medical marijuana establishment would have priority to be a marijuana establishment under this law, because again, there are limitations on the number of marijuana establishments. But this statute allows cities to prohibit them. So this is not necessarily time sensitive. We're not beating the effective date of this law or anything. The law expressly allows the city to prohibit them if that is your desire. So I went ahead and drafted this ordinance, not reinventing the wheel, but this basically is the ordinance that the city of Surprise has already adopted. And it does 3 things. If you go to the 4th page, which is your packet page number 76, it says marijuana establishments are prohibited, marijuana testing facilities are prohibited. So those 2 things are outright prohibited. And then on the
did you give us a copy of it?
it was in the it's in your packet, but again, it's under the item 6-1 under the action item for
action
tonight's
It's on the regular meeting.
Regular meeting.
agenda.
Oh, on the regular meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta get it. I read that. So the medical marijuana, we're only allowed 1 license for the city of Nogales.
Correct, but
And
which we
nobody-
don't have any.
We don't have any.
Right.
And on this ordinance, this proposal indicates that nobody could come into the city of Nogales.
For a for a marijuana establishment as defined in the new law,
That's considered recreational.
for recreation sales, for sales of recreational
And
marijuana.
This proposal means there is we're not allowing anybody
We're not allowing anymore.
to consume nor to sell.
Let me get to consumption first, or second, but the marijuana establishments are prohibited. Marijuana testing facilities are prohibited. And that's what's expressly allowed for cities to enact. Okay, and then it also does one thing else, a little bit higher up under section 13-22A. It would be a violation to possess, smoke, consume, distribute, doing anything with marijuana on property owned or controlled by the city. So the city can still regulate the activities on its own property. And so the proposal would be to prohibit possession, sale, distribute, store, cultivate, manufacture on property owned or controlled by the city. And that would basically fall into three categories, I think. One is public housing. But public housing already has HUD regulations that we have to follow. And HUD regulations follows federal law. And federal law has not been changed. Federal law is still a felony to possess any amount of marijuana, distribute any amount of marijuana. So although this would prohibit possession and distribution, et cetera, of marijuana in the housing authority, it's already prohibited. But anyways, that's one of the categories. Second category would be public property that the public enters upon, such as parks. And so we would tell members of the public and post signs, no possession of marijuana on our property in our public parks. And then the third category of property I think that this would impact is city property that city employees work at. And so again, it would be clear that city employees cannot possess marijuana on city property. They can do that at home.
That includes medical. There's no conflict between recreational and medical.
No conflict between, yes. Marijuana is prohibited on, yes, this would be a prohibition of both kinds.
Can you just clarify, this proposal that you have here, this ordinance, is that a duplication of the surprise ordinance?
Yes, changing it for our
Okay,
use.
so what I'm reading here is the surprise ordinance that you.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's short and succinct, and it does the
That's what I
three
didn't know.
things that are allowable under the statute. And the three things is to prohibit a marijuana establishment, marijuana testing facility, and prohibiting marijuana activity on your own property, on your own city property.
Mr.
Even if
Massey,
it's what they refer to as nonprofit, even if it's a nonprofit one, we prohibit that.
We prohibit them from taking, yes, marijuana into city property.
So, the thing that bothers me the most, first of all, it was passed by the people.
This statute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even
it's
though
bad.
it includes that cities and towns can prohibit it.
Right.
Are they still doing their transactions all cash?
I don't know the lay of the land well enough, John. Do you know? I think that's the reason why they are all cash is because banks are federally regulated, and banks want nothing to do with any kind of drug proceeds.
So,
That could look like they're laundering.
money, okay. So then all of these people in Tucson, let's just use Tucson, that allow these dispensaries there. There's several, lots of them. Does the city of Tucson collect the sales tax off of that?
I believe they do.
So what is the potential loss to the city of Nogales financially that we're not going to be able to collect sales tax from this project?
I have not done that analysis, Mayor. So that would be, okay, we'd have to kind of entertain a couple of assumptions. A, one, that a marijuana establishment would open here, and then B, kind of guess what the volume would be. And so I don't know that is, I haven't done it, I
There will
haven't
be a
tried.
financial impact if we were to allow.
Well,
How many licenses would Nogales would be allowed to have?
there's no,
There's no
there's no limit.
So
We could regulate, we could establish that's the other thing is you could regulate it. You could
Uh-huh.
say what the number is. It does allow prohibition, But within the whole authority of prohibition comes regulation as far as number and possibly hours of operation, things like that.
Medical marijuana. Do we collect sales tax on that?
No, because we have no establishment.
Okay. And right now, we're looking to whether we're going to establish or not recreation.
Correct.
And we have one license for the city of Nogales for medical.
One potential license under the allotment methodology adopted by the
Well, we have
Department of
one.
Health. We have the potential for one.
I'm not just like I am with alcohol. I'm not a big time supporter of all of this stuff, okay? But I'm trying to look at this as how things are as far as these individuals paying sales tax to the city and what its impact would be to revenue that we're losing. And it looks like I'm not gonna get an answer to that question.
Well, can I,
Because they're all cash and, we don't know how much they're selling. And I don't know how do you prove if it's all cash and everything.
Right.
How do they ring it up or, I just don't understand how they do business. But they must be doing it if they're doing it in Tucson and paying sales tax.
well, there's a difference now. Before it was just medical.
Uh-huh.
And now that it's recreational, you can grow your own plants at
At
home.
home, right?
Right.
No,
Now
I'm
if you
not
grow, now if you grow your own plants, why would you buy it from a dispensary?
Right. Right. And then you touched on indirectly another interesting element here, which is the Arizona Department of Revenue, with some of the changes to state law, is effectively the only agency that does audits on businesses. You're kind of raising the integrity issue. Are people reporting the total volume? And so not only is that an interesting problem if it's an all-cash business, if the city is not even allowed to send auditors into it, it makes it even more challenging.
Does anybody know how much the state of Arizona Department of Revenue collected in marijuana, medical marijuana sales from all the vendors in the state of Arizona? Did anybody look up to see how much sales tax revenue the state collected?
I haven't done that. No.
That would be it.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'm just raising this up for, I support this thing, okay? I'm not into that, and you guys, with all of this, giving out these liquor licenses just for fundraisers, I don't support that either. But I'm in support of this deal. I'm just trying to look at it so we understand. There's a financial impact for this decision of too. But I think it's minimal, and I don't wanna have that in the community. And I don't think that the people that I represent want to have it. To tell you the truth, Mrs. Robinson, do you know how the county voted on this proposition? Did they vote yes or no overall, the county vote? I forgot to look that
It
up.
was approved.
Huh?
It was approved.
No, but did the county approve it? I mean, the votes from Santa Cruz County, there was more yeses than no's, huh? Huh. I would just like to see, Mayor, the total from the precincts in the city of Nogales.
And the
I
county.
forgot to see how the people voted in Nogales. Because I would have more justification for my position if I could say, look at, in the city of Nogales, Proposition 208 received a no vote.
Mhm.
You see, then I could.
I could try to look online to get that for
It's more
tonight's discussion.
justification for me, Mr.
Yeah.
Massey, for
Right.
my vote for them. Even though I know the people that I talk to don't know.
One question was, Mr. Massey, is, what Mr. Varona was talking about, if you have medical use or permit and all that, can we interfere with an employee that might
Well,
need it?
we do already in our HR manual prohibit the possession of marijuana in the work center, and you can't obviously consume marijuana while you're at work.
But no, if it's
The problem
medical,
is if you're testing and you find THC in your blood, and if you have a medical marijuana, then that doesn't allow for discipline at that point. So,
Mhm.
and then kind of on a tangent, but what this law says, and it's very explicit, is the mere presence of THC in a person's blood, if they're stopped for a DUI investigation, that is not enough to create a presumption of,
Yeah.
of impaired driving. You actually have to have additional evidence of impairment. So just because the THC stays in a person's blood system for a long
That's
time.
stuck there too. When I was looking for the results.
So that's gonna be a discussion for tonight's meeting for possible action.
Election night results? I can't see.
So, and then just in the way of cleanup, when this comes back for tonight's discussion,
But even if this was to pass, Mr. Mayor, getting back to Councilman Maldonado and so on, even if we allow this, there's a prohibition through personnel policies that our employees cannot be carrying and say, oh, this is recreational.
correct.
Okay, just-
Correct, but I'm saying if the prohibition to possession in public places, that would apply to our employees as well, and that creates a class 1 misdemeanor penalty. Right now, we have administrative penalties, and of course it violates state and federal law, but we don't necessarily investigate them for criminal charges.
Anybody remember the prop number?
208.
207.
207,
207? Oh, yeah, 208 was the
Yeah.
school.
There you go.
Yes.
Can you break that down by precinct, though?
No, you'd have to go over there and total them up.
So
for
that's the whole
city.
county.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's
whole
the
county.
county as a whole.
You gotta get the individual results.
And that's fairly consistent, I think, with the state result.
Do you have it? If you got the cities there, it'll be on there,
no,
you just
but
gotta
he
add.
only has the CDs,
Well, you can pull the cities out of that if you wanted to.
but it's not in the.
Yeah, you can, but he has it over there.
Well, you also have your proposition 207.
Not by the
No,
city?
no, no,
Are we
no,
having
no,
it?
the CD is-
Yeah, but that's just for our ordinances, for our
Oh,
charter
okay, yeah.
changes and the concept. But that's, you're talking about 8,000 to, that's about 3,000 votes. I was just curious, Mr. Massey, just to see if maybe,
It's 407, right?
no,
No,
it's
no, no.
It was 207, it was a
No, it's
statewide,
not in that report
right,
that he has.
proposition,
This is strictly CD propositions and the candidates, what he's got.
yeah, oh, okay, but that one's for the county. But that gives me an idea, because there's 3,000
Yep.
votes, so it would have to be overwhelming on it. But it would be interesting to know that, to hold up how the people in the city precincts feel about the issue. Mayor, but right now, my inclination is to support the ordinance.
Okay, is there anybody else? Any other discussion? Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
Quick question, isn't there a dispensary in Rio Rico?
there is a dispensary in Rio Rico. Rio Rico is its own HAA, I forget what that stands for, but it's like a health agency subdivision. So when the medical marijuana law took effect, the Department of Health Services divided the state up into all of these HAA units, allowing one dispensary per HAA. So that, in other words, dispersing them geographically throughout the state. And so Rio Rico, well, basically all of unincorporated Santa Cruz County is one HAA, so they're entitled to have one. And the entity that got the license from the Department of Health chose to locate in Rio Rico. Could have chosen to locate in Sonoita, but so as a result of the one dispensary in Rio Rico, there is no dispensary available to be located in Tubac, Sonoita, Patagonia, anywhere else.
Who's in there at 25 now?
I don't know about 25. What,
There's some-
that relates to, I think, growing, the
the
location
growing.
between growing and dispense, at any rate. But we're allowed to have one additional one within the city limits.
But Patagonia is a city, so
It's still within the county HAA,
It's still in the county.
yeah. So, and I think that's a fair way of dividing up Santa Cruz County. Based on population, Santa Cruz County was entitled to have 2 HAAs. And they just said, okay, Nogales one, the rest of the county another.
If we give up our,
You won't have a growing south of the checkpoint.
Yeah.
You'll never have it, because you have to move your product north, and it's still a federal law. Only possess when you have to go through the checkpoint.
But they could also move the check.
But what last,
No, I think.
Mayor, if I could just
Yes.
be recognized for,
Go ahead.
for a cleanup amendment, I will be passing out, just, a section 125. This 125C, it says section 1-7 of this code. It should be 1-9. So I'll pass that out for the discussion tonight. If there is a motion to pass, then that should be amended to 1-9.
Letty, did they give you the results of all of the precincts of the city, how it voted on everything? Did you get a copy of those results by
He gave us
precinct?
our propositions and our candidates.
That's it, they didn't.
That's what he's got. But you have to ask to see if they can segregate the rest of it and make it city. Cause this one, they know that we need it, so it's programmed already, that they can take out only what pertains to the city issues.
Mayor, I'm ready
Yeah.
to discuss it now and.
You guys are good?
Yeah.
Very good.
Everybody good?
Uh-huh.
All right,
All right.
then, we're ready for adjournment.
So move. Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Adjourned.
Then we are.